So now keep in mind, our system is based off algorithms. And so algorithms can be wrong. Nobody could have predicted COVID. So if you use this system right when COVID was happening, it would have been dead wrong, just like every forecasting system out there, just like Excel, nobody could have guessed it. So you always want to review your forecasting rules, and the forecasting rules are literally just logic. It's budgets and estimates for what you think are going to happen. We want to review these to make sure that they're right. So the first one I kind of want to pick on is payroll, because that's obviously one that's pretty important. And it can be kind of missed in the system sometimes, depending on how much journal entering you do, how many off-pay runs you do, how variable you make the data look. So Helm's really good at picking out consistent recurring data. And you would think that that would be a payroll in terms of, say, biweekly payroll. But if you do a ton of journal entries into it, a ton of adjustments, a ton of ROEs here in Canada, so people getting terminated, it'll actually make the data look variable. It'll make it look random. And so the system has a hard time detecting it sometimes, and it'll just make a highly simplistic assumption in terms of, well, in any given month, we are now spending $16,600. The reality is that I know that this is a biweekly pay run. So this is a great example of, I just want to take my knowledge of my business or my client's business, and I want to apply it. And this would be the same in any spreadsheet. I would be calculating a 12-month average, and then I would be adjusting it to what reality is. So here we're going to say, I actually want this to be a biweekly pay run. We're going to start it on May 9th. It's going to happen on a weekly basis because it's biweekly, so every 2 weeks. Day of the week doesn't typically matter, but if it does, you can change it to, do you run it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday? We'll click save for that, and that'll actually change our forecast on the side. But of course, the amount is not $16,000 every 2 weeks. It's actually $8,333.33 every 2 weeks. So we'll change that, and you can now see how the graph has changed to be very much up and down within a month. And I think that's really important to note, because if you think about most businesses, 60 to 80% of most costs in a business are related to two things typically, and that's people and rent. And people are paid typically twice a month. And so this is a very typical cycle of cash in a business where you get a high in terms of your earnings going up, and then all of a sudden it gets a big drop because you made a pay run. And going back to accuracy matters, this is why accuracy matters, because if you're in a negative position at any point here, you need to know that. So that's just a quick show of how you can change a monthly average estimate into a bi-weekly pay run example. So another good one to pull out is insurance. So here we've got an insurance budget of $416. Now the reality is that I know this business may be a little unfair in terms of you don't have the context, but here we actually pay this insurance annually. And so Helm didn't detect it because there's actually not enough data in our demo company for it to detect the annual recurrence. If there was 2 to 3 years of data, it actually would, but it didn't in this case. I know that this $400 is wrong. And I actually know that it's $6,000 per year. So I'm going to change this. I can even change the name to annual insurance payment. And we are going to say that this actually happens in July on the 15th. And it happens annually once a year. And again in July, excuse me. And we'll set it to $6,000. So you can see here, right there, we've got our insurance payment. So you can see here that it dropped out. So again, instead of smoothing it out and giving us a P&L view, an inaccurate view of what our cash flow is, we've now got a more granular, detailed view of what happens. And keeping in mind that I'm just reviewing this information on setup. Now that it's in the system, it's always there. It just simply recurs every single year. So until I change my annual insurance payment to August or the amount, then I change the amount and the timing here. So same thing as a spreadsheet. Another thing, good thing to note is Helm only surfaces for the forecasting rules profit and loss information. And the reason that we do that is because there's a lot of accrual items, so prepaid expenses, accrued liabilities, that can create some double counting if you surface both the profit and loss and the balance sheet at the same time. Insurance is actually a great example of that, where you've got both prepaid expense, some kind of accrual adjustment every month, and the annual amount. We don't want to double count that. So we only surface the P&L, but that means for anybody with a debt payment, we're only pulling out their interest payments. So you can see here our interest expenses, $1,200 per month, $1,250. The actual debt payment is $3,000. So I'm going to change that here and call it an actual debt payment. And you can see how significantly our forecast has changed already. It looks very different than when we first started. We've only tweaked 2 or 3 different numbers, but it's extremely accurate for what we're doing here.